The trip game genre on Roblox has been struggling. Games like Dusty Trip once thrived, but over time, most players lost interest. So why did Dead Rail succeed, while other trip games failed? Well, we gotta know what exactly makes a trip game first, so what defines a trip game? So some of the core elements of a trip game include vehicles with limited fuel, set path and a distance bar, random events with enemies, loots, and obstacles to overcome. This is the average trip game, or at least the core mechanics of a trip game. So why did Dusty Trip fail when it had such high player count? And why is Dead Rail succeeding so much better than it ever was? Well, it comes down to two major core elements that most trip games, especially Dusty Trip, were missing and never added. We'll talk about those two later, but let's talk about Dead Rails now. Dead Rails introduces a compelling twist, well, at least in the trip genre. Set in 1899, a mysterious virus known as the zombie plague has swept across all of Western America. A cure exists in Mexico, and your mission is to traverse the continent via a steam train to obtain it. Players must manage and operate a train, scavenging for supplies, fueling the engine, and defending against various threats, stop at zombie-infested towns, and other opportunities to loot supplies, kill bandits and confront them for bounties, and fortify their train for the journey ahead. And all, of course, you can do this with up to 4 players. You know how I mentioned those two main core elements that every other game, especially the one that started Dusty Trip, was missing? Well, unlike the other trip games, Dead Rails imposes a natural progression limit. While there's no explicit countdown timer, the journey's length is set in stone with 80 kilometers until you reach the end of the game. So this means that players must really think, strategize, and prioritize what tasks and what resources they need to, even get the chance to even get to Mexico successfully. Which is a huge difference between, every other trip game. Because, as far as I know, Dusty Trip is endless, and every other game also copied that endless to their own detriment. And we'll get to the other core element that's missing, but let's keep talking about Dead Rails once again. So, Dead Rails also elevates the genre by, integrating decent combat mechanics. Players have access to Wild West themed weapons, including revolvers, shotguns, bolt-action rifles. So it's not like you're completely defenseless. And this brings us back to the other point, resource management. Ammunition is limited. Health preservation is vital. Players must decide when to engage in combat and when it's just not worth it and leave on the train and keep moving forward. And now what's that other core element I was talking about every other game was missing? Replayability. Well, a lot of the problems with a lot of these trip games were once you've done one run, you've seen most of the game. And, you really never felt like you wanted to play it again to try something else because, every run was pretty much the same, no matter what you did. So, how did Dead Rails get around this major problem? So, there's a special currency called bonds, an in-game permanent currency earned by completing challenges, robbing banks for those bonds, or successfully reaching Mexico. These bonds can be used to unlock new classes, each offering unique abilities and separate playstyles. Now, while the class system itself adds a good chunk of depth and at least a little bit of variety, it's not perfect. Of course, the same strategies are more likely to win the game, but at least this adds some sort of artificial way of playing the game a little different. Say Alamo, and you're building like a really reinforced train, or Cowboy and you use the horse off the start to just go straight there with no train, stuff like that. While it's technically not the best way to play the game, it's at least a choice to how to play the game, and that's kind of what the whole class system is about, and that's why it was helping with replayability, something that every other trip game lacked major. So why did it succeed, and why was there so many people playing it now? Well, I'll tell you this, the game has received praise from lots of people in its community for, its structured gameplay, rewarding progression, And according to a lot of people, a lot of players appreciate the sense of purpose compared to every other trip game. Ultimately, Dead Rail succeeded because it fixed the biggest flaw in the trip game genre. It was giving a reason to have the players keep going and coming back. Instead of an endless grind that never ended, it provides a destination, a challenge, choices that mean something. And, well, that's why this game works where every other trip game failed. And of course, there's always going to be clones on any popular game, but it doesn't mean clones are a bad thing. It just means you have more choice. The original's always going to be there. So, what do you think about Dead Rails? I personally like it. Sure, it's not exactly the most visually or complex game, but it's a good time with friends, and I can recommend it if you haven't played it at least once. Well, at least beating it at least once, I would recommend. After that, that's your choice if you want to keep playing. I would say it's at least one win, at least, when playing. So, what do you guys think? Tell me in the comment section below. Like and subscribe, Zezets. Peace!
It's Chase Cezul, mother trucker. It's Chase Cezul, snitch.
Let's get some Robux tonight.